Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner. Let me make sure I move my microphone up because I'm not used to it as well. Just keep in mind, if you hit the toggle switch, just hit it once, your microphone will turn on. You'll know it's turned on because of the red. And then if so just overall, just general welcome. What we're going to do is just kind of go around and introduce everybody. Everybody gets a chance just to introduce yourself, just kind of background, just a couple minutes, like 30 seconds, 15 seconds, somewhere in that range, and we'll just kind of walk around. Derek Bradshaw, I'm the director of Genesee County Planning.
Lisa Gulliver. I'm from Clio, representing Clio. I recently, in the last few years, started working with seniors. Prior to that, I was working with kids. I actually worked for General Motors, but my degree is actually in community development. So I work with the Northern Tier senior centers as a volunteer for them.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Murphy. I prefer the pronoun she, her. I'm from Flushing. I have about 55 years experience in nonprofit management, grant writing, fundraising. In my last position, I was at the Community Foundation of Greater Flint. I retired in 2019, and I'm a senior, so that's why I'm here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kathy Bowles. I am the retired CEO from the Valley Area Agency on Aging back in 2018. It's been a while, but served at the regional level and the national level for aging services and associations. And again, I'm a senior. I live in Grand Blanc, Michigan. I think I was CEO, or I worked at Valley when this millage originally passed. I'm anxious to see what comes of this task
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Taylor. I am born in Flint. I'm 82 years old, so I'm a special senior. I get all the extra credit that go to the senior citizens come from my age group. So I swipe my card every chance I get. So one of my biggest concerns and my main concern is that the average person that goes to the senior citizen center is 65 years old-ish, and she is 5'2", and the chairs don't help her at all. The chairs are poorly purchased for seniors. That's my single most important issue. I don't think there's any seniors at the county planning, GCMPC, although I did spend 20 years, I think, down there. I wasn't a senior then, but when you become a senior and you see who's planning for you that are not seniors, it makes a difference. So get rid of all the chairs at all the centers, and you're seating someone who's 5'2" tall, which can cause, if they're not, they can cause, blood clots in the lower part. I mean, they're actually dangerous if you're sitting in them too long. Although I try not to sit in the chairs. I try to go to only exercise classes and avoid meetings, but I'm feeling like I'm in a tall chair right now. And I think that's an important issue. And as we age, we shrink. So the chairs aren't going to get better 5 years from now. So I would like to know who's going to do some research on that and how that affects seniors physically, and is it good for their health? And how much input do we really have in terms of health and pleasure to get seniors out of their homes where they're safe and comfortable and happy, but doing more exercising so that we can have a richer life? And I am specifically interested in the city of Flint, since we only have the 2 centers for the whole community. And the other biggest, most important point to me is that senior citizens buildings look like jails. There's no windows. There's no light. I did go out to the new one in, is it Monday? Just wonderful flow of light. since Michigan, since Flint sits in a valley, that we have days like this so much, but we're in a brick building. Like, and who designed those? Well, I'm sure they're not around. But what can we do to get light into the building, natural light into the building? Those are my two concerns: is chairs suitable for the participants and windows and light. Thank you.
And if this is on, I'm Russ Perkins. I'm from Swartz Creek. I'm also with the Kiwanis, Swartz Creek Kiwanis. And I taught in Flint for 33 years at Flint Northwestern. I've been involved with many of the plants through the UAW GM Human Resource Center, particularly in the late 80s, mid 80s, late 80s, early 90s. And I've had a lot of experiences with Flint Kettering in the area of high school science, robotics. And so I see a lot of seniors with the experience that there's no way for them to give back that experience. We have a tremendous bank of experience in our seniors, and I think that the whole community can grow and flourish if we get the seniors more involved in the community, get them out moving, and health services, whatever it takes to get them up and being able to give back, was that they want to do it. They're being, social media and other things have left them out. That's one of my concerns.
Yes, I could hear you, but your speaker doesn't.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Richard Richardson. Please call me Richard. By background, I'm a registered nurse. I worked at Hurley Medical Center for 36 years. I started in housekeeping before I was a nurse. In Hurley, I worked in an array of different clinical and administrative positions. A lot of experience in terms of program development, in terms of budget, both capital and operational budgets. I've got experiences with that. Different programs in the community when I was at Hurley. One of them I just mentioned to Kathy was I was the nurse administrator that was over a service that we provided at Hasselbrink. It was a case management with a registered nurse and a social worker that was trying to keep seniors in their homes in the community. After I left Hurley, I went to the University of Michigan Flint, and I was an associate professor in the School of Nursing here at U of M Flint. My area of clinical expertise was community and population health nursing. In that role, I was the lead faculty, so I not only taught the lectures, but I also coordinated the clinical services that the students had experience in terms of their rotations. I worked in terms of securing placements for students throughout Genesee, Lapeer, Shiawassee, and Ingham County, array of different types of services, some senior services, home care hospice, Head Start type programs, some public health departments, school nursing programs, was the majority of the areas. The other thing that I think has taught me mostly in terms of being an expert of senior services was I lost my brother in April of this year. He was 8 years older than I am, but I was his guardian for 32 years, and he lived with me for 18 years. He had a dual diagnosis of developmentally disabled and being schizophrenic. So, in terms of being his advocate and his guardian, I felt like I was his personal case manager in terms of linking him to services in this community. The other thing that has given me expertise, I feel, is that I'm an AARP tax counsel. I prepare taxes at Burton Senior Center, also at Crapo and Hasselbrink. This current year, I did over 200 tax returns for predominantly low income. There were individuals that I did taxes for that had incomes of less than $15,000 annually. I'm representing District 3 from the County Commission grouping, which is Burton and Davison. And I'm also a consumer of senior services. I participate most heavily at Burton, but I've also done activities at Davison and also Swartz Creek.
Hello, my name is Casey Clark. I was an owner of a small accounting firm, which we've since merged with another firm. So, but that's out of Davison, Michigan. That's where I'm from. That's where my firm was, and that's where I live today. I was on the DDA for the city. I'm now on the DDA for the township. Was a city council member out there and also part of the Optimist Club. And that's about it for me.
I'm Teresa from the planning department. I'm a secretary there.
Okay. So bear with the technology, but being the first day in, it'll only get better from there. So the first things, Gwen, do you want to click forward? There we go. Okay. I'm going to stand up. Okay. So we did our welcome. Purpose of the task force. We kind of talked a little bit. Commissioner kind of introduced, welcomed everybody here, talked about kind of the mission to kind of take a look at the senior millage, right? 20 years of pretty amazing, productive things that have really helped a lot of people. So what can we look forward to in the next 20 years, right? So with that, this is the language that the county board passed. They did a resolution, and this is kind of the outline of what the mission is of this task force. So they're looking for a one-year basis task force to really come in and make some recommendations to the county Board of Commissioners for programmatic service and budgetary priorities for the senior millage funding. We're looking for a written report. Obviously, staff will support you in that written report piece with some data attached, right? No later than June 1st. The task force will present, obviously, their recommendations in public. Each of the 9 Board of Commissioners gets a chance to appoint somebody from the district. There's rules on who can be appointed. And then just some small things about simple majority vote, quorum, those type of things. Task force should meet once a month. Meeting is open to the general public, so this meeting is open to the general public. Also, it's recorded and will be on YouTube as well. And we're obviously met the October 15th day, so I appreciate the notice trying to wrangle schedules last week when we were trying to get this meeting kind of underway to get this going. We still have 2 more members that we're still waiting for from a couple commissioners to round out this group. Planning Commission staff, will provide the in-kind staffing just to help this group through the process. Anything you need, call myself, Teresa, Gwen, we can process out. And then potentially the board at this discretion could potentially extend the life for whatever. This is the resolution that actually went to the board that just established the advisory board. Any questions on that? Relatively straightforward process. Sure.
So Dale Waghill is my county commissioner, and I had a conversation with him that I wondered if you could maybe address, and that the reason why this task force was actually pulled together came from there having been some concerns about how the millage dollars are appropriated to provider services or senior centers, right? Is that correct?
Yes, so there was some discussion in the last couple, 2-3 months, I will say, where there was funding recommendations that were made, and people were talking about decreases or increases or anything I'm missing with that, Josh? And so with that, the board of commissioners were looking for a task force to really sit down and actually dig deep into that issue and come up with some potential recommendations, as opposed to, and the intent of the timing is that potentially those recommendations can be implemented in our next budget. So that's something, that's why you look at a June date. The county's budget starts October 1. So potentially that's why there's that June date in there. So whatever comes out of this group, the county board can take that into consideration at programming for the following year. Yep. Other questions? Okay. Go ahead. So one of the things we'll talk about as we go through this meeting is the how we get to that point, and what kind of stuff you want from staff or other experts outside this room to come in and talk about some potential information. Lynn, our senior services director, is going to actually do a little overview. By no means it's going to be a detailed, because it's quite a program, but just to give you a kind of a taste of what we're kind of talking about. Senior millage language. I throw this in there. It's a little dry, but ultimately that's kind of, if we're looking at funding, what does that mean? It basically talks about the age, right, of the people involved and what it constitutes, which is 60 years or older. And it also talks about potentially the type of activities that you can do to support them. But that's kind of, I look at the 2 guiding kind of things is the county board's charge and setting this group up as to what they want to do. And then the other piece is
I have a question. The 8.1, is that annually, or is that over the 20-year?
annually.
Annually? Okay. Thank you.
Got renewed. Yes. And really look to, it's been around for 20 years. So are there things that 20 years ago people didn't think about. I know they've done and have increased. Like if you look at what originally was done and today, there's a lot of additional programming that's brought in, but are there some potential additional
So I'm going to, of course, talk about senior-friendly paperwork.
ones? That's a yes. I
And
agree with that.
I'm very sensitive about that. And I really think that we should really start putting on our hats for now you're working with somebody that's 82 years old. And the millage has a lot to do with people leaving the county. So what can we do to keep seniors happy in the county, and can senior services keep seniors in the county? Because projecting out, given where Michigan is and where Genesee is right now, the taxes aren't going to hold up for what we need. Is my thinking. I don't know, you're from planning. So I'm looking for projections like that. I'm looking for what are we doing specifically for people that are 65, because when you're 65, you have certain needs. When you're 75, you have certain needs. When you're 82, like me, you have other needs. So what's going to keep me here? What's going to keep me happy at the senior center? So I'm looking for that kind of data. I'm not sure if that's what you're going to talk about, but I'm always looking for the sterling hair people who are planning. You've got to think like me or wear glasses like I'm not wearing mine today. So you have to be in my chair. And those of you that talked about working with preschoolers, there's not much difference. We talk about what preschoolers need. Seniors is the same situation. We put a lot of emphasis on Head Start and the importance of it, but we weren't talking about seniors at that time. And now we're talking about it, but we're talking about it to a diminishing population. And I know a lot of people that are my age that are still driving, that aren't coming to the centers. And I want to know, because I know Flushing is wanting to take over the library, but I want things to flourish in Flint too, because this county's no good without a city. And what's keeping me here? What's keeping me happy? What's keeping me healthy? That's the data I want to see at this group, because without that kind of information, and I know the way you count and measure is my age group. You know, when you swipe the card, those of you that go to the centers, and who trains the people who are volunteers at the center and who are staff at the center, and how senior friendly are they? Exactly. I have a whole stack of them. You know, they finally realized you could go anywhere. I mean, people say to me, do you go to other senior citizen centers? Well, yeah, I go where you've got what I need, but everybody doesn't get to do that. That's almost a privilege. And a lot of centers have buses that are parked, or people are being charged, and they shouldn't be, because those buses are in the senior millage. And I'm for naming names so that those centers stop doing that. So if we're not going to be real advocates for seniors here, then there's really, you know, we could just Zoom it or something. I could be doing dishes.
One of
or
my
something.
concerns, I think, too, is looking at the community and the community needs. And I think, you know, as a committee, we need to tap into community assessments. The Greater Flint Health Coalition has done a really wonderful community assessment, and a portion of that has been looking at seniors. They've got a healthy aging task force that has occurred at several different senior centers, and I would like or recommend that we contact them. The person who's coordinating that is Lori Kunkel, and have her do a presentation in terms of what qualitatively are seniors saying to her in terms of staying healthy. You know, we talk about qualitative, that's the lived life. What are people actually experiencing? And what I may be experiencing at 73 years old may be very different than what you are at 82. So, and we just recently at Burton had an individual, she's 101, at 100, she decided she wasn't going to drive anymore. So, I mean, there's people, you know. So, Other things too is when I look at some of the services that are being offered, are they being duplicated in this community? That money to me is very sacred, and we need to put forth recommendations in terms of how that money should be used wisely. Is one of my perspectives of that. There may be needs that are unmet in the community that maybe that fund can meet some of those. There may be needs in the community that that fund will never meet in the community because of the.
Talking about duplication, I'm sorry, duplication of services. I want duplication of services. I want to be going to the closest center to my house for me. I don't want to go to Burton or to go to Carmen Ainsworth.
I think in terms of the senior centers and the programming, there's a lot of duplication, and I honor that, but that's within the entity of the senior center itself. What I'm talking about is when I look at some of the services that are being provided in the community, I think there's some duplication of some of those services. And I also have concerns in terms of what are the costs? How many people are they actually serving through that service? And I think we need to look at.
Richard and Elizabeth, I really appreciate your comments. Obviously, you've got a lot to share and a lot of concerns, but I was wanting us to get back to the agenda.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about, I think this is a good segue.
I think it's how it is we're going to work together, interact with one another, guidelines for how it is we listen or things of that nature. Yeah.
Robert's Rules of Order. Yeah, so just simply, I mean, just organized speech around an agenda with like a chairperson and kind of a correct.
Everybody gets an opportunity, right, to talk.
Correct.
around the
Motions,
motions and agendas and
voting, motions, discussion.
healthy discussion, right?
Yep.
I guess I would only say that I would hope that, because my experience is that sometimes Robert's Rules of Orders can be used to alienate people and make them not feel like they're involved in the conversation. Because when people start saying, I'm going to call the question, or this is a friendly amendment, it's really, you get focused on that process rather than what the issue is. So while I agree with structure, I think structure is important. I would want us to listen to one another, seek to understand what the person is saying, and to, strive to assume that we're all here to do good.
I would just add.
I'm going to apologize for my writing because I really am all about trying to get thoughts down. We are going to type stuff up and send it back that'll be a little bit more fleshed out. So this is what I heard. Include everybody, right? I also heard listen to each other, right? Try to understand their perspective or their thoughts. And then we all are here to actually do other things. Other what do you think? Can I translate that a little bit? You really want to be the voice for people that
I was going to say respectful.
I,
respectful. Definitions, right? Is that like allowing people to finish their thoughts? Is that listen? Like, what's some of the other pieces that get into respectful? Because a lot of times you use these buzzwords.
Yeah, so listening to each other, being open to others' opinions, kind of a lot of the things that you've already captured.
I would
Eh,
ask
We
that
don't
we,
all have to agree, right?
Right.
yeah,
Because we can agree to disagree, but
Right.
we should also seek to understand.
I would ask that we, when given homework, that we come to a meeting prepared so we can fully participate and feel like we've heard everybody because we've all had time to look at the data, understand what the questions or the issues are, and then we can participate and then make the most of the time that we all have together.
Big task, right? By June, really digging through the current state, the future state, trying to figure out, it's a big task.
And along with having this structure, also to keep a mind's eye on that at the end of that task, there has to be some type of written report, some sort of structured feedback to the commissioners. I mean, we can sit and talk about a lot of issues, but we still have to have a document by the end of, or the beginning of June, end of May.
I'm going to throw one out there. I know I'm kind of not supposed to. wonderful to not hear about politics, political parties, or administrations at a township or city or a senior center or an organization, just anything political or politics. Because ultimately, you know, this county chose to vote for a millage, right? And we can just kind of leave that kind of political swirl out of the equation and really just kind of look at just because I know everybody wants the best service delivery and the best things for seniors, right? That's just my personal. Good. So we'll type these up because I think it's important as we kind of set the ground rules as we go through this process, right? If for some reason we feel like we're straying from some of these, because sometimes, you know, it's okay to be a little passionate, right? We're all here because we really want to affect change. We just need to remind ourselves of some of these, right? Nothing wrong with, you know, on occasion we may stray a little bit, but as long as we kind of get back to the mission at hand, because our goal is to be timely with your time. Your time is valuable, and we want to make sure that we get the best out of it. Okay. Next up, we're going to have Lynn do a brief general overview, right? We're going to go into the nitty gritty on this, but just a overview of what.
My name is Lynn Ratzalowski, and I have been the Senior Services Director here for Genesee County for going on 15 years now. So what I'd like to do is give you a history of the senior millage, as well as the services and programs that are being funded today. So we'll start with a little history. The senior millage was placed on the primary ballot and passed on August 8 of 2006. At that time, the Genesee County Metropolitan Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners oversaw the distribution of the funding to the senior centers and service providers. In January of 2011, the Department of Senior Services was created. Since then, there has been one Senior Services Director, full-time, myself, and 2 full-time Senior Services Specialists in that department. So we are a mighty department of 3 overseeing the senior millage. A Senior Citizens Advisory Committee was in place in the early years all the way through 2015, but a former board chairman disbanded that advisory committee due to politics. The senior millage was then renewed on August 5th, 2015 with a favorable yes vote. That millage is the millage we're currently in, and that expires December 31st of 2025. So we're currently in the second 10-year renewal. The millage was placed on the ballot again in August 6th of 2024 with a favorable yes vote. So this millage is now funded through 2036. So there's another 10 years ahead of us. That's a little bit of the history. So what is our mission? The Genesee County Department of Senior Services is dedicated to improving the health, safety, and quality of life for seniors in Genesee County. The department oversees the distribution of senior millage dollars approved by the Genesee County Board of Commissioners to area senior centers and contracted senior service providers to ensure quality services and programming for the senior citizens of Genesee County. All right, now we're going to get into the millage-funded services. So I'm going to do my best to summarize, but also give you a nice overview of how vast and how many services we do. We'll start with adult daycare. Adult daycare is a program that provides structure and supervision for older adults during the daytime who are unable to be in their home or be by themselves. Many adult daycare seniors have dementia, and their caregivers still work. So it's very important. I'm sorry. Yes. So we want to make, and at the end of the day, the senior does return home, but many caregivers still work, whether it be their spouse or another child. We also have auditing services. Auditing services are for our senior centers who are not affiliated with their local unit of government. We have an independent auditor that goes in and audits the financials of each senior center to ensure that they are up and running and doing everything correctly to follow all the required laws. Case management and assessment. Case management is a coordinated process used to assess, plan, implement, monitor, and evaluate the services required to meet the senior's individual needs. The goal is to ensure effective, efficient, and appropriate care for services. So when a senior receives senior millage services, they go through a case management process. They have a social worker that oversees what services they're receiving. And each senior in these programs is reassessed every 6 months to ensure that life changes have or have not been made to adjust their tailored plan for them. Guardianship and conservatorship services. A guardian is appointed to make a personal and or medical decisions for someone who is not able to safely do so on their own. Not every senior has a good daughter. Not every senior has a good son that can make these type of decisions for them, so a guardianship can be appointed to them. Conservator is appointed to manage a person's financial matters if they cannot do so themselves. Elder abuse and exploitation prevention. This is a collaborative team that is responsible for education, advocacy, community engagement, investigations, ad litem services, and prosecuting services. Home delivered meals. Home delivered meals are meals that are prepared and directly delivered to the home of the senior. These seniors are homebound. They're not able to go out and prepare their own food. They're not able to go shopping. So these meals are delivered to them. Many of these people do not have anybody that can help them. They do not have family. They are completely homebound except for getting out for doctor's appointments. This program, Home Delivered Meals, is one of the most popular and needed programs because it helps a senior live safely in their home. Yes and no. The congregate meals last fiscal year were funded with some senior millage dollars. This fiscal year, congregate meals are not being funded. Good question. Another one of the most popular and needed services is in-home personal care and homemaking. These services are designed to help older adults remain safely in their home. Just because a senior needs a home-delivered meal and or some personal care with bathing or grooming, changing the bed linens, doesn't mean they need to go to an assisted living. They just need a little help in the home, and that's what this service provides. We have in-home respite. So a lot, as I alluded to with adult daycare, a lot of times the primary caregiver needs a break and can't get one. This program offers a trained individual to come into the senior's home to give that caregiver a break, whether it's a few hours to go shopping, to take care of themselves, going to a doctor's appointment, or simply we have some that just simply take a nap, knowing that their loved one is being taken care of for those few hours. We offer legal services. These are free legal help to older adults. We've worked with abuse and neglect, consumer law, a lot of estate planning, housing, and of course benefits. Lawn and snow maintenance. This is actually one of our newer programs. This was developed because a former commissioner had a great relationship with the current vendor and wanted the millage to pair up with them to make a difference. So when working with that vendor, we developed this program because as we get older, it's very difficult to mow your own lawn and have snow removal. And as we know, back in my day, I mowed my neighbors' lawns. I shoveled my neighbors' sidewalks. Kids don't do that. So we need these type of services to simply, they can stay safely in their home. By having the snow removal, the home delivered meals drivers are able to safely get to the porches. Same thing with lawn care, which, you know, is required in many neighborhoods, or they will be fined. So this has become one of our most popular. There's over 260 homes currently receiving this service. To be eligible for a Genesee County senior millage, you must be 60 years or better and a Genesee County resident. Medical transportation with liaison. This is probably one of my most favorite and proud programs that the senior millage funds because of the need. This is not just medical transportation, pick you up, drop you off, come back a few hours later. This is where, once your appointment is made, the driver comes to your house, picks you up from your house, from your couch, wherever, takes you to that appointment, stays with you that entire time, whether it's in the waiting room, in the doctor's office, or just in the vehicle in the parking lot. They never leave your side. Once you are done with your appointment, they will take you to the pharmacy or the grocery store for any type of need and then safely get you back home. So we were seeing so many seniors not having rides, but not having procedures done like colonoscopies, upper GIs, because you had to be, had to twilight or had to have some sort of, medication that you could not drive. So this program, we have 4 vehicles in the fleet. 2 are fully wheelchair accessible, and it averages between 80 and 100 rides and appointments a month. This again was coming from some of the commissioners wanting the fund balance to be spent. And in order to spend that, we needed to find quality programs, and this is one that. We also have Senior Project Fresh. This is a state program that encourages seniors to eat fruits and vegetables and also support their local farmers markets. So the senior who is eligible receives a $25 voucher. They get to go to participating farmers markets and buy fruits and veggies, also supporting our local farmers. Senior centers. Senior centers are also known as senior activity centers and enrichment centers. Are community-based facilities that provide programs, services, and social opportunities for older adults, typically age 55 and older. Some of the senior center activities that are provided but not limited to: arts and crafts, information resources, community gardens, daily meal programs, educational classes and presentation, food pantries, health and resource fairs, health and fitness classes, legal services, loan closets, My Cafe program, socialization, support groups, tax programs, transportation within their boundaries, veteran services, and volunteer opportunities. And as stated before, we have 16 senior centers. We also have some specialized senior programming and services. This was another idea from a commissioner who wanted to spread some of the senior millage money, but not hundreds and thousands of dollars, taking $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 to do a specific need. And we have this throughout the community, and any nonprofit can apply for this. Again, it ranges from $5,000 to $15,000. So we're able to enhance services, but not with $1 million. And then we have the visually and hearing impaired support services. As we age, we know vision and hearing can be impaired, and unfortunately, some completely lose their vision and or hearing. That can be a very troublesome time. So having support groups and other programs to teach people how to still be as independent as they possibly can, a very important program. So I don't want to, I could talk for hours on this, but I won't. So I'm open up for any questions. And again, like Joshua said, all of you will receive a copy of this PowerPoint.
Thank you, Lynn.
seniors to participate in the community. Give back of the knowledge and experience so they have a sense of being valued and important and listened to. We have talked about this in our research indicates that people that are actively involved are going to be healthier. I want to see. I see we have a beautiful program. And I want to see how there's a mechanism so that everybody comes in and you ask questions or when we find out where they're at, and also ask the question, goals in your final year? How can you give back? What do you have that's special? That building that into
Agreed. There are certain arts that are dying with our seniors. We look at quilting and sewing and all of these different things. It's a dying art. I love the fact that you're still working with the AARP tax program. Again, these senior volunteers are crucial, and we want to encourage that. We want those seniors to be active because you're right. The more active a senior is, the better their life is going to be. So we definitely want to encourage. I miss the AARP driving program. There's only about one teacher left in that program, and that's helping seniors while aging be able to drive safely. So you're on point, and you're on. We need to tap into the resources of our seniors.
I think there's opportunities also in the community. One of the greatest ones I've seen is the array of things that they do. It's just with children, they can do it with developmentally disabled individuals, some of them it's very rewarding, some of it very simple in terms of going to a nursery or an ICU and sitting and rocking them. Brings satisfaction to them, but what it does for that particular individual, that child, that infant, in terms of nurturing those. There's other programs out there. I think sometimes you have to find your niche and tap into it.
One of the things I would like from Lynn is of all the things that you mentioned, how many are asked for? How many people ask for rides? How many people ask for the things that you're talking about? How many are provided?
So I can start with rides.
Oh,
So
no, I just thought we
oh.
were going to get, I thought we were going to get like this in print.
So,
And
yeah.
I would just like to add to that, how many ask for the fresh? And then how many are granted the fresh? Or whatever the services that you mentioned.
So we're gonna delve like really deep into these programs. This is just designed to be just an overview primer on some of the breadth of it. So each one of these ones has quite a bit of detail, but it was like, with this group coming together, let's get just an overall kind of big picture. So as we walk through this project, and we can include that stuff, so you'll see here's the number of people, here's the unmet need, those type of things. Because I think that's a piece, right, of the puzzle. There's other pieces as well, but that is a piece. Perfect.
You are the entity that collects the data. For instance, all of information is kind of I shouldn't say a dump, but you receive a lot of information in terms of who's doing what in the community. You get needs assessments from different organizations, don't you? You do have that information so that can be shared with us as we're deliberating over what the needs are of the community.
So the experts, or honestly Lynn and her team, are the ones that collect all that data. Our role in this process really is just to facilitate and make sure, like, when you said, hey, Greater Flint Health Coalition, we should have them come in and talk. I think that makes sense. So, our role is let's get them in here to talk about some of those things, right? So yeah, absolutely. I'm sure as we walk through this process, and that's why ultimately why Lynn's here as well. She has the biggest wealth of knowledge about any of these programs, right?
Asking because I know Valley does a needs assessment every 3 years, so there is some data that helps to formulate how they will prioritize their services. And also, do you have access to other communities who have senior millages so that we can take a look at how they've distributed their funding over the years? Like Kent County has a senior millage. Are we going to be able to receive
Yes.
that information as well?
I can tell you that I'm going to be attending a conference at the end of this month where I'm going to be meeting with people like me from every single county that oversees senior millages. So I'll be able to get statewide data and information for you.
Other questions? Make sure you turn on your microphone before you ask your question.
I would also hopeful that not just who accesses these services, but the bigger picture of seniors in Genesee County. 'Cause not all seniors go to senior centers or access these programs, right? So what percentage of folks do this and where do they reside? And then also where the greatest needs are. If we're going to be looking at what the shortfalls are, that would be really helpful.
Question over here.
Coming at this from a problem solving, continuous improvement, quality perspective. How they improved the quality of the automobiles back in the 80s. And we had some improvements in the quality of our automobiles. Process is one that can be applied to the community. And so I have interests in the group is concerned about our children in our community. These are mostly seniors. Youngest are only few, but most of us are in our 80s. We're still active. We're still interested in giving back to the community. I don't want to see us looking at certainly the seniors that exist now that need help. Don't change any of that. I'm just talking about adding to it because we've got seniors who are willing to help seniors, but we've got also a lot of seniors who are willing to help children. And the whole process, the kids in need our attention now. Don't know, they don't have the guidance because the parents aren't unsure themselves of how to guide. Many of us know how to guide now. It took us 80 years to get there, but we now know how to do it. But we don't have a voice. That's we want to give back. We want to do it with our experience and everybody, the whole family. We want to build families. Look at this as just dealing with a small amount of senior millages. Let's look how we can put things together to solve the bigger community problems. Continuous process, not one time.
over here real quick.
So I was gonna, one of the things, and I don't know if we'll see this, but like how these things are communicated out to the center, because kind of like Sarah, Elizabeth, and Kathy alluded to, not only who's using the services, but who's not using the services. Are they not using the services because they don't know the services exist?
I'd like to add a big one to that is hearing aids. So there's about four or five different places in Genesee County where you can actually get free or $5 or $10 for vision. But seniors aren't being serviced the same way for hearing. And we know that that involves balance, falling, putting people in the hospital. So are we looking at that as a particular service that is lacking in Genesee County? Right.
I would just comment the renewal of the millage had a smaller percentage saying yes than it did 10 years before. So part of what I would be wanting to know is, how are we educating so that we can continue to have the millage? I know.
I would like to say for that,
Yeah.
we had over almost 50,000 voters for that. That was the highest voted for millage on the ballot. So just because it was at 68%, the 10 years before, we had half of those voters. So there was double the voters and passed at that high of a rate, and that was the most voted for millage on the ballot that year.
Thanks.
We'll dive deeper into those things.
Okay, so one last round of questions. I just want to be respectful of time. This is just a kind of an introductory meeting. Is there a couple more quick comments? No? Yes? Okay.
I think the county's aging, and I think we have to pay attention to that. And that's what I thought we would be getting today. I really thought I would be coming away with data today, because most of the things that you've shared has come out of BAAA. They do have a resource book, but you've got to know that it's there. You've got to have a friendly person answering the phone. I mean, there's a lot of information that's available, but my individual concern is, my peers are not getting it. They can maybe afford it and they can maybe, but they're not getting it. And I want to know why not. And it can be as simple as, those bands that are in the exercise class, when you use them so many times they break and nobody's there funding them. I want to know about that. I want to know how that funding gets there on specific things. I want to know why aren't there more hearing aid services if that's a high area where seniors are ending up in the hospital or services aren't being provided to them. I want to know why.
Elizabeth, I want to say in part, it may be the system, it may be the services, but it's also the seniors themselves. When we look at seniors in that age group, we look at growth and development for them in its integrity versus despair. So their perspective is, if I can keep everything the same, even though things are slipping all over, their perspective is everything that is the same when it actually may not be the same. They don't have the despair of what's happening in their lives. And I think there's a lot of people who wait too long to tap into services. They're in their home, they may be alone, they may not know how to access the services. I mean, the other thing too is technology. So many of these programs are, linked to tapping into an internet or using a QR code. I mean, how many people in our age group understand how to use a QR code? But you have to be your self-advocate too, and you are your advocate for yourself. I mean, I feel that.
So let me just wrap this up and then get to the last two parts of the agenda real quick because I just want to be respectful of time. So this intent was really just to meet and greet and hear from you what some of the things that are kind of jump to your brain. So we're going to set up the next series of meetings to try and incorporate the stuff that you talked about, and so agendas and kind of like structure it in a way that we can start to hear in more detail. Kind of talking about two things real quick before we leave. Discussion on chair and vice chair. So we talked about some process and organization. We need a chair and a vice chair. We're not going to elect the chair and vice chair today. However, if after you leave here, if you think that you are interested in either the chair or the vice chair, if you would reach out to myself, text, voicemail, email, carrier pigeon, however you want. At our next meeting, I think it would be important for us from just an organization standpoint to have a chair that actually chairs the meeting. We're really just staff to be able to help in that process. So think about if you're interested for either chair or vice chair. Future meeting dates. This was literally a dart thrown at the wall, right? Everybody got the call from me and says, hey, can you make it, right? Is this time okay, or should we pick a different time and date? Just, we can poll people, we can, yeah, so we will send a poll out. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if we could just push it back a half hour to 5 o'clock on the weekdays.
And we can pick a potential different date too. So what we'll do is we'll send out a poll. If you get that poll and say, I don't want to click on that poll, right? Call me, right? And I'll just take whatever your answer's down, right? So that we'll see what dates make sense. So I'm hearing a half an hour later, so starting at 5, and then we can take a look at some potential dates. Does that sound right or no? Yes? So at least a half an hour later, and then we'll throw some dates out. And
Looking forward, I do my
okay. We'll try and get the heavy lift done before then, but we'll definitely so be looking for probably tomorrow to get some information on some potential dates, and it would be nice if we just pick like the first Tuesday of the month and just use that as a cadence, so that way it's easier to remember, and then instead of moving all over the place.
I was just going to talk about dark and seniors driving. Yep.
The end of October.
Yep.
So, we can chat about that. We want to make sure that we record these and put those out on YouTube for people that aren't here. So we'll think about that if that's possible. I will throw different dates and times out too. So I'm not just going to restrict them all to 5 p.m. And if you have other ones that you think, hey, we'll throw in the other category. Any other questions? I know times kind of we're right to the end of it. With it, go ahead.
Can we communicate with our communities from them? For example, I'm thinking of business, realizing that sometimes businesses around trying to find ways to help out. So that they're not involved, so they just say, we'll give, donate money here, or donate money here, with, and that it's piecemeal, it's not focused on accomplishing. Just be aware that we can, I'm wondering, for example, if we need more money, can we involve the United Way and have a goal from the community, having a goal of $1 million, for example, to help fund programs, as long as we tell the community. That means we need to, we need to be out and visible.
Russ, I don't, so I would just say my understanding of what we're going to be doing is looking at what is already allocated through the senior millage and the services that they're providing, and really understanding, deep dive into the data about all of what's being developed. Our role is not to be out raising money for additional senior services. That's not what I signed up for. I don't think the United Way would be wanting us to come to them with that kind of a goal, because they understand the millage is in place to fund these kinds of services. So while I think local senior centers, and my senior center has done this in the past, raised money to complement what they get from the senior millage, that's on a community by community basis.
I'm not opposed to continuing what we're doing. I hate to mention him forward, but one of the things that he mentioned was that if we continue to do what we've always done, we're always going to continue to have the same result. And the results we've been getting for decades now are going in the wrong direction. And so
I would
doing things in the same manner.
Yep.
That's so.
So what you said earlier,
Something additional above just the millage. Use we have the millage set to continue the programs that we have now. That to me, I have no disagreement. I think people are doing a tremendous job. Let's look at the bigger picture and propose. Here's what we could do. Looking at it differently. And we could take and prevent so many people from ending up with dementia. Prevent our children from becoming involved with social media that they don't learn other things.
okay, Russ,
Do both.
Russ, I want to thank you for your thoughts, but I think we're getting ready to adjourn. Yeah, thanks.
So I just want to thank everybody for coming today. I think I heard a lot of good input. It's a heavy lift and a heavy task. I think this group is up for it, and so stay tuned for communication on dates, and be thinking of chairs and vice chairs. And maybe you think it's not you, but maybe somebody else, right? Like, so we can always nominate other people as well. So, any other questions? Thank you, everybody.